Out Comes the Sun with Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi. Out Comes the Sun compassionately helps you navigate mental wellness practices that you can apply to your daily life. And we tell your story. And now, Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi.
Welcome, everybody, to Out Comes the Sun Radio. I'm Mariel Hemingway. I'm here with my amazing co-host, Melissa Yamaguchi.
Hi.
Oh, my friend. So during this sunrise section, what are we talking about today? Since you're the bearer of good and interesting news.
Well, I'll tell you something. There's been a lot of debate on what Medicare is going to be covering, which is always up for grabs. What it's going to be covering when it comes to healthcare. But one of the latest things that's being pressed onto Medicare, which they are considering, is the coverage of elder care when it comes to nursing homes and mental health.
Wow.
Because there's, Medicare, well, all insurance has been remiss somewhat in addressing our mental health issues. But what they discovered during the pandemic COVID, when there was a huge isolation of our elders, is that the mental health of our elderly really was, what was the word I'm looking for, was so palatable that nobody could ignore it. It was screaming at us in the face. So Medicare is now being approached, and they're sitting at the table trying to discuss how much more they can take on. In particular, when it comes to nursing home, daycare, veterans that are suffering, our elderly, and how much Medicare can step in with the VA hospital and on their own. It's a pretty big topic.
Yeah, it's a huge topic. I mean, and it's so important that we have an amazing guest and we talk about grandparents, right? And the importance of caring for our elders on so many levels. And we as a country, I feel, are remiss in our addressing these issues, and I think, I was thinking about it today because I just have to tell everyone who's listening. So today, I looked out our window here. I'm in Southern California, and there is still a homeless issue here. And I looked out the window and there was all this trash, and I got a little pissed off in my mind, right? Like you do. And then you feel bad that you got pissed off because they're homeless, right? And then I looked out the window after a phone call and they were clearing it all up. And it's just, here's the issue. This is all a mental health crisis, and we have to address it. What is the answer? And I don't even know what that is. You bring up, our elderly, our veterans, and all this stuff. There's got to be a solution. And I do believe that insurance companies have to step up. I don't know how they have to. That's what they're there for. That's what we need them for.
Well, and even in our financial industry is having to address this, because there was recently an article I read about Charles Schwab letting it be known that they are stepping in because so many of the elderly of their investors have been targeted. And so Schwab was now making an announcement saying, look, we're now insulating. So here's the challenge. Here's the challenge that we all face. The majority of times when something is initiated for the betterment of, I don't know if it's human nature or if it's just the negative energy of the world. I'm not sure to whom I place the blame, but something comes in and shifts and changes it to make it not so good. And the reason I'm saying that, and I know that was an ambiguous statement there, is because if Schwab and other financial groups they do have a fiduciary responsibility to their investors to protect them, yes. But when they insulate their investors and they quote unquote protect them, where's the line drawn? Because in the name of protection, people's rights can be taken away. You and I both watched a show called Take Care of Maya. At the encouragement of our associate producer, Slater, you and I watched Take Care of Maya. And so in the hospital's mind, and I won't give away the whole story in case anyone in our audience has not yet watched the show, but in the premise of the show was a mom and dad taking care of their child, to
Yep.
enable, which they knew was the right thing to do for their daughter, had gone to great lengths to discover what was going to be the right thing to do to take care of their daughter and her ailments. And in the name, quote unquote, of care, the hospital stepped in. And so that, and so how it ends, you'll
Well,
have
what happened was there was an emergency, and the father called the hospital and went to the emergency room.
well,
Yeah.
yeah. So what? So in the and in the name of care, the hospital stepped in, and
Yes.
so the line that's drawn in that show is the I'm making that analogy to every single thing else we're talking about.
Yeah.
At what point is the overreach too far, right? And so it's I don't have the answers here, and I'm not running for office, and were I in office, I'd pull all my hair out. So I don't have the answers, but I think it's worth us discussing. Something needs to happen. I've always said we need to think globally but act locally. We need to get our rears in gear, and we talk to our local representatives and say, this is what needs to happen. This is what we care about with our homeless. This is what we care about with our elderly. This is what we care about with our schools, whatever.
Well, I think it's saying what we care about, but it's also educating the public, everybody who's listening, everybody everywhere, what happens, right?
Yeah.
Right. So in that Take Care of Maya, it was all about they didn't know what was going to happen. And if you haven't seen it,
Or that it could happen. Yeah.
Right. It could happen. But it's really about if they'd been educated
Yes.
about how the world works, and those big corporations, which really, hospitals and insurance companies they're big corporations they're businesses, right? Bar none, at the end of the day, that's what they are. So you have to know, and you have to know your rights. I mean, everybody should watch this. We don't have enough time to break this open.
Well, and we'll come back one day and talk about the insurance companies that are getting it right, because there are some that are stepping up and saying, we're doing something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I work with one in Idaho that's doing some really amazing work called Optum. Optum Idaho is doing some amazing work for behavioral health, but and there are certain parts of it, but because they're big corporations, it gets splintered.
That's right.
Well, stay where you are. We have an amazing guest who is a friend of mine from a long time ago. We haven't seen each other in years. We've connected sort of this way through Zoom and the internet. But today we get to see each other again. And I'm excited to introduce you, Melissa, to our next guest. So stay where you are. You're listening to Out Comes the Sun Radio. I'm Mariel Hemingway, and I'm here with Melissa Yamaguchi. As a mental health advocate and author, I love books. Books have the capacity to inspire, educate, transform, and ultimately help readers all over the world. So if you want to publish your book, or if you need help writing your story, I highly recommend Mindstir Media, rated the #1 best book publisher around the country. Mindstir Media can help you no matter where you are in the book writing or publishing process. Go to mindstirmedia.com to learn more and schedule a consultation. Welcome, everybody. You're listening to Out Comes the Sun Radio with Melissa Yamaguchi and Mariel Hemingway. And we have such an amazing guest today. She's a friend. She's somebody I worked with years ago and have kept in touch with kind of through the years in a kind of cool way, and we'll kind of get into that. But it's Bobbi Brown. You probably know her brand, Bobbi Brown, which is, a makeup brand that's extraordinary. But she now has her own thing that she's head manning, and I hope I'm saying this correct. It's Jones Road Beauty, which I love. It's a beauty company, makeup and skincare that is it's so great for women coming of a certain age who don't want to look overly made up. And I don't know, it's for everybody, to be honest, but it's really nice for me to have something that is just, I don't know, just natural. I use it. She's been in the industry for an incredibly long time. And she's just somebody I admire, because it's hard to negotiate business, negotiate your family, negotiate the world as it is, and kind of how it's changing. And I think, Bobbi, you have reinvented yourself in such a way that is so admirable and so incredible, because it's not easy to do. I mean, I know, being in my 60s and being an actress, and what does that mean? And like, and you have just done it so gracefully, and kept the integrity to your family, and to to the world that you're living in, and you're the head of a company. I don't know, you just do it all so well. And you also did something, you reached out when I became a grandmother, which I really appreciated, because you had recently become a grandmother and said it was pretty cool. So
Wow.
I thank you for that.
Oh, sure. And I, to anyone that's listening, I left Bobbi Brown Cosmetics 5 years ago, maybe 6. And I launched Jones Road Beauty, the new makeup line, the day my non-compete was up 2.5 years later. So that's kind of my story. And Jones Road is definitely for everyone. It's a clean brand, but really the point of difference is you put makeup on and you just look better. You don't look like you're wearing makeup. You just look so much better.
Right.
That hashtag of Jones Road, which I'm the only one that uses it, is how not to look like shit. Because that's why I wear makeup.
So true. I mean, it's like, because you wake up in the morning, I mean, even if you're younger, right? You wake up in the morning and it's just like things like, there's blotches, there's whatever. And then it's just like you lighten everything up. And frankly, this is a show that we talk about mental health, but I think that the way that you look and the way that you care for yourself is such an important part of feeling good about yourself. I think that we, as women, as men, but as women, we've been so hard on ourselves, for so many years, and we judge and do this, that, and the other thing. But choosing to take care of your skin and the way that you look, and that's really, self-care is so incredibly part of our mental well-being. I know it is for me. I know when I make the effort to, be, look, feel good about the way that I look, it makes a difference in how I feel, right?
I mean, absolutely. I know that when I put makeup on, and there's days where you wake up and you don't feel good, I'm doing too much, or maybe I'm dehydrated. And so you don't feel as good. And you look in the mirror and you say, I don't really look good. If I stop and I put the makeup on and I get rid of my tired under the eyes and give myself a little blush, fill in my brows, because, as we get older, they kind of go away, that I not only look better, but I start to feel better. So beauty is such an important part of mental health. There's no question.
100%.
In the beauty industry, we know that when a patient's in the hospital and begins to put on lipstick, it's the road to recovery.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, yeah. So you've said some things that are so impactful that I think are worth sharing with our audience. You said, I don't have an age when I'm in the middle of exercising. And we talk about the power of movement all the time on the show, and how vital it is to treat any kind of mental issue, right? Like anxiety, depression, move the body. So you've talked about this, and I know you're doing health coaching. How can you talk to our audience a little bit about the impact that exercise and movement has on you?
Sure. I mean, what exercise does for me, it like cleans the cobwebs out of my brain. It gets rid of that stuck feeling. It turns everything right. And if I don't do it every day, I don't feel the oxygen. Yeah. And I'm not a major athlete like Mariella is, but I mean, you were born an athlete. I've worked hard to be fit. And now my exercise is walking, it's doing weights. And I finally found something really joyous, which is hip hop. So I am taking hip hop classes with my hip hop instructor, who you could, by the way, do his classes online. It's called Live with Lloyd, and it's unbelievable.
Oh, I love that. Well, and I've seen some of your videos, and they're awesome. Here's what's awesome about them, is because you did become very clear that exercise was such a big part of our life. And it is. Movement is everything. It's not whether you're a super athlete or this, that, or the other thing. It's really about that movement. The body and the brain are just like so they're just,
Right.
there's some magical something that happens. And I always talk about this, and Melissa and I always talk about this. I talk about the 7 doctors. Dr. Sun, Dr. Air, Dr. Water, Dr. Exercise, Dr. Nutrition, Dr. Rest, and Dr. Earth. They're available
Right.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they're free, right? But you
Right.
do have to, you have to make yourself do those things, and you have to make that a habit. And what I've loved and admired about you over the years is that I saw you make that important in your life. I saw you realize that was, oh, wow, this is key, right? And it's even more important. I think what happens is, as people get older, they start to think, oh, I got an ache and a pain. I'm going to slow down. I'll have another glass of wine, but I won't do the workout tomorrow. And the truth is, it's just the opposite. The aches and pains go away from more movement. You have to come up against what's hard and move through it to come to enter into what's joyful, right?
But you also have to shift a little bit. Some things that I did 10 years ago, I don't want to do anymore. Like, it doesn't feel good. So I'm doing other things. It just depends. I mean, I used to beat myself up when I exercise. Let me go harder. And then I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good. So now I don't do that anymore. I like to walk hills. I like, to push myself that way, but I'm not doing extreme sports.
No, I mean, but Bobbi is my Bobbi.
Yeah.
My Bobbi is not you, Bobbi, but a Bobbi with a Y. He's definitely doing extreme sports, and I'm just like, okay, right, have fun.
Yeah, but even walking, and by the way, I use walking to either do, call a friend, I check in with people, because when I'm home, I'm so busy. Like I'm one of these very busy-minded people. I'm emptying the dishwasher, I'm on a Zoom, I'm folding the laundry. And then when I get out to walk, I can literally call, my mother, my father, my cousin Barbara, my Aunt Alice, and I just, feel connected, where sometimes you feel disconnected. So it's a way that I like to connect.
It's really hard. Well, Bobbi, I mean, Melissa and I, that's we both walk in the morning. We go for long walks in the morning, and we download. It's when we think of things that we're going to ask you. It's when we think of things that we're going to talk about. And it really is. I spoke to my daughter for, 45 minutes. It's so important. It gives you that space. I love walking too. I mean, I'm a big believer in walking and hiking. I think it's awesome. But anyway, go ahead, Melissa. Sorry.
You talked about when you're on your walk, you connect with your family. And I've read before that you are heavily influenced and motivated at one point in time by your grandmother, and then also by your dad. And so one of your messages always is about going back to your exercise. I'm not an age when I'm in motion. On this theme of age, how age is just a number. I'm encouraged when I hear about your grandmother motivating you and your dad. Could you, when your grandmother did motivate you and your dad, I believe still does, could you share with us about that?
Well, I mean, I think everything that we've experienced, and you don't realize it at the time, what the lessons are and what you're learning. So, my father is such an amazing role model. He's 88 years old. He's a retired lawyer, and he writes children's books. And he's finishing, another one right now. And it's very frustrating for him because he's 88 years old, and digitally he kind of suffers, so my assistant is helping him finish his last 2 books. And my grandmother, my Papa Sam that had his own business selling cars, my Aunt Alice, like all of my relatives kind of helped me, just realize what's important in life. And hopefully I'm doing the same thing with my kids.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love, my dad's 88 also. And my dad, Bobbi, Mariel knows this, answers the phone with his age. Hello, this is Travis Chambers. I'm 88 years old, 2 years shy of 90. How can I help you? I mean, it's like a report.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
My father boxes twice a week. He's got his, his boxing guys. He boxes twice a week.
That's
So
amazing.
he
I
doesn't,
love
yeah,
that.
he doesn't think he's 88.
Yeah, I
That's
love that.
well, they found that grandparents are heavily in the blue zones. Grandparents are heavily linked to longevity.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a tremendous link that just having that person there that inspires you and their wisdom. And I also think we keep our our grandparents alive, our parents, our grandparents alive by including them. And I think we're in such a society where we've kind of discounted the importance of those connections with our elders, right? We don't honor that enough, I think.
No, and I like nothing better than when I meet a woman of older than me who still is natural and hasn't like changed her face too much, and she, she's with her grandkids and active. And I plan to continue doing what I'm doing, but I always want to be better at it.
Yeah.
Your ability to reinvent is really amazing. And the reason I'm gonna, during the pandemic, everybody was slowing down and oh woe is meing, and this is when you launched Jones Road. And there's a quote that I want to read to you that reminds me of you in this moment. Paradise is regained by finding the wonder within the moment, by Pico Ayer. So you in the moment didn't say, oh, it's a pandemic, we're all shutting down, oh my gosh, what's happening, oh my gosh. You said, okay, well, I got to do something, I want to do something, so what can I do? And when against many marketing people would have said, no, not now, what are you, insane? You went for it. You've got a good feel for, you trust your gut, it sounds like, on a lot of stuff you do.
I do. I trust my gut a lot, which is actually really funny because I constantly have gut issues. Okay.
Oh,
So
wow.
yes, my gut serves me, but I'm that angsty person that, you don't see it on the outside, but it's somewhere in my gut. So I'm working on that, me and my probiotics. But I'm a very like naturally positive person. So I don't think something isn't going to work out. I just like to figure out a way that I could do it that makes more sense. I love simple things, and I see the possibilities in so many things. And I think that, it's just being an optimist. And if I'm ever in a bad mood or I feel like, oh, I either talk to a friend or I go for a walk, and it turns me around.
Absolutely. Well, energy always shifts. So I always say to people that are suffering, like some people say, oh, what do you, it always shifts. All you have to do is walk. I mean, Krishnamurti used to talk about that. Just take a walk around the block, because it can't, and that energy can't stay the same way. Right. But movement and getting out in nature. You're also in one of my favorite places in the world, because my Bobbi, is from Long Island, and we go there once a year after everybody's left, right after the big holiday, and then it's kind of deserted and amazing, but yeah, it's so special.
And also so much of your mental health is what you put in your body. I mean, it's like it's people don't understand that. Like, there's things that serve you when you're eating, and there's things that don't. I mean, I have a nephew who was having major issues, and it took him years, but he figured out how, certain foods that just made him feel awful. He changed his diet, and he's never been better.
Well, and you talking about your gut, they say it's really the first brain, right? There's the heart and the gut, and it's so intertwined, and that gut health is, that's been a game changer for me, just realizing that it's probiotics, it's soil, it's getting minerals, it's so many different things, but also just getting rid of weird food that isn't serving you, whether it's too much sugar or processed foods. So many people just get trapped in this. We talk about it, in the middle of the grocery store. They're trapped there. You got to get out. You go on the outskirts and look at the fruits and vegetables and the things that are alive and healing. But it's hard for people to make that connection. It's so sad because we also don't want to give up things that we don't want to give up, right? We're like, I'll figure out a different way. I'll get
Why? What's the worst thing you eat? What's the worst thing you eat?
I don't even, what's the worst thing I eat? I don't know. Probably coffee is I guess I drink that.
Yeah.
But my Bobby says that, caffeine and coffee is so bad because he doesn't eat any of it, but he eats pizza. So I'm like, well, I don't do any, literally, kind of stupidly don't do much anything bad when it comes to food, because my brain is I know my brain, and I know that I won't feel good if I go off what I know works for me. So,
right.
And I just keep telling him coffee seems to work for me. So, I make it organic and I love it, and, back off.
And they say it's good for your brain.
Yeah. And I like that.
Whoever they
I'm going to own that.
Recent studies have come out talking about the benefits of a modicum amount of caffeine, but they've proven, to your point, Bobbi, about food being so important, which I know we talk about at length on the show, but that Alzheimer's and cancers are caused by a metabolic dysfunctioning. So it's all related to what we're eating. So and the knowing that we have more power than we've been taught. Our grandparents knew it, right? And our great grandparents knew it. That's why they had their own gardens and grew their own stuff. You recently I don't know how recently, I shouldn't put a time frame on it, but on the Important Things podcast, you and Anjali had on Charlemagne the God. And I listened to your interview where he talked about mental health and his mental wealth, and talked about how important it was to him to come to terms with his own mental wellness. At what point in the frenetic pace of you starting your business, and then every phase along the way, did you realize that you had to take this into your control? Like you mentioned anxiety that you may have. At what point did it become debilitating before you noticed it? Was it something you've always dealt with?
Yeah, it never debilitating. I grew up with a mom that suffered from bipolar, and she's bipolar and has a little dementia because she's been on medication her whole life. But so, I watched her suffer, and I always knocked on wood that it didn't transfer to me, or my kids. So, I don't know where hers came from, but she struggled with it. Yeah. But I also, I don't like to feel bad. I just don't. I don't like to feel bad, which is why I don't eat things that make me feel bad, or, I eat less of them if I know they're going to make me feel bad. And whenever I start to be a little like blasé, I just shake myself and I realize I have nothing to be blasé about. And I just kind of go for it. And, drinking water, by the way, as silly as that is, makes a huge difference, in your outlook.
Absolutely. 100%. And I relate to that because I come from family members who, my oldest sister was schizophrenic and bipolar. I think Ernest Hemingway, if they had that diagnosis, would have been diagnosed bipolar. And I know that fear. I know that, like, wondering if I don't know if we share that, but I suspect we did. I spent a great deal of my early adult life worrying that I was going to end up like that. And when's it going to come? I thought it was like a virus, like all of a sudden, or you're just going to wait. Literally when I was raising my kids, I thought, oh dear, maybe I'm just going to wake up one day and I'm not going to even know I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to know. I'm going to have a manic episode and lose it. But I know that, I like what you say. I just don't like feeling bad. And I think when you make it as simple as that, it's really clear when you figure out, oh, I don't feel good when I drink too much alcohol. I don't feel good when I eat sugar. I don't feel good when I eat a lot of whatever it is.
Right. But I do feel good when I have a vodka on the rocks with like fresh cucumber juice and lemon juice, but I feel good having one. Like if I have more than one, I'm not going to want to hip hop the next day. So, no, but that's how and yes, I like a little bit of pizza on occasions, but I know I'm going to feel bad if I eat more than one, or I try to eat less. So, and I try to eat it with protein and, I play games, I guess, with myself.
Games, I think you learn moderation. And I never say to anybody who asks me about food and like, oh, how do you change your diet or whatever? I say, look, it's not about, oh, you can never do something. Never. It's about knowing that when you do it, it's such a, like you should really enjoy that vodka with your fresh cranberry and cucumber, whatever you enjoy it and you savor it. But if you have that every day, it's kind of like going to Starbucks, getting a chocolate latte, blah, 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 with a mush of whipped cream. If you do it every day, is it really that enjoyable anymore? Do you really even, you know what I mean? It's like getting that prize at the end of your whatever. It's
right. But that just means that you have to pay attention, right? You have to pay attention to yourself. And it's like, okay, that doesn't feel good. I'm not going to do it again.
Right.
And, it's like everything in life. Well, that doesn't feel good. I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question for you. AI is making all these entryways into different things in our lives, and a lot of people are very nervous. Some people are scared. I know in the medical industry, they're titillated by it because they know how much more advancement they can make in the discovery of much of what ails us. They haven't talked about food yet, but they're still foraging forward. I was reading this morning that Levi has made a decision to use AI models, and one of the and I'm which fascinated me. There was a whole video on it with a model with the profile, and from the profile, one could determine that the model was Asian. And as she slowly came to face the camera and then go back, she now became African American. Comes back and then goes back. Now she's a redheaded, looks like a freckle-faced young Irish girl. All the same print, if you will, outline of a woman with just all curly hair, all looking the exact same. And they're getting a little bit of backlash, in particular from Hollywood with the writer's strike right now, fighting the whole AI thing. Is there pressure in the beauty industry to kind of accept this as a norm, or is it still much of an outlier?
I mean, look, I feel like I'm in my own little world with Jones Road because I'm not, I don't feel I'm part of the big beauty scene because I don't want to be. We're not in retail. I don't go to those like events. Been there, done that. It's such a waste of time, energy, and money. But, it's scary. I mean, it's scary. I mean, do you think anyone's going to need a makeup artist? It is a little scary, but I will tell you that we don't have a copywriter right now. And my son, who is our CMO, just went on whatever AI thing he did and said, what is Jones Road? And honestly, it was written so amazing. It was freaky.
Yeah. It's weird, man.
Yeah.
That's scary. Well, and I think about it too. I'm like, they won't need actors. They'll be able to get me as like me at, I don't know, 16, which would be nice.
Well, I mean, what is it? I wonder what it says about our definition of beauty. If it's a manufactured, perfect, utopian-esque thing, one of the things that I've always loved when I look at Jones Road is, and even when you had Bobbi Brown, yes, you had models, but there was the real woman. There's a real woman in there, and that's our audience. That's who we're targeting. And so to see a real face on there with a real body is, I mean, Dove did that campaign where they had real women and their eczema or whatever they was showing how Dove, whatever they were doing. And it was so well received. So I think it's the implications to our self-image is going to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We can't fight it. We just have to figure out, how we're going to use it. I mean, it's just like social memedia, guys. I mean, remember all the years ago we didn't have it? And it's like, it's been.
Remember thinking you wouldn't do it? And I sat in a restaurant once on Montana Avenue here in LA. I was with my kids and some guy had a phone that was like this big. I was like, I will never speak on the phone in a restaurant. I'm like, say never. But, I mean, the weird thing is what can happen in 2 years? What can, it's all happening so fast.
Mm.
Right. We did it. Dree, my daughter, who is a model, so that's why I had a moment of going, uh-oh. She has the AI app and she put in something about a movie or something, and it comes out. It's incredible. You're like, oh, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're smarter than you. I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't get it. It's way over my head.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I feel the same way. It's like, nah, really, I don't think so. Well, what are you moving towards, or is Jones Road kind of your whole world, and how is that your world, or is it everything? Is it being a grandma? Is it, creating a new home and house out there in SAG?
And I'm going to say yes to all of that. And my whole world really is, things that are interesting and fun. I mean, it's, starting new homes is incredible, but it's, there's stress. Working with family is incredible. Jones Road has been honestly the biggest surprise joy that I've had in my life. My granddaughter, Lily, I mean, that's definitely takes front and center. And I have 3 sons. I have an amazing husband. We've been married 35 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And I have great friends. I mean, the one part, honestly, of my life right now that needs work is the Bobbi, because I've been so go next, go next. All right, do this. I need to figure out how to take it down a notch and start getting more massages, or sit in the sauna that I have in my house, or sit outside with the book and just calm down. And so that's what I'm personally working on. I try to meditate, and then all of a sudden my list of things that I want to do kind of goes off. So I'm working on it.
I think that's great. Look, meditation, I've been meditating for like 40 years, and it's the just don't give yourself a hard time, because nobody doesn't have thoughts, right? We all have laundry lists, and like, oh my God. And I always just say, well, if this is really important, I'll remember it in 20 minutes or 10 minutes, or maybe 5.
Right.
That's all you can handle. But it's just making that effort really is huge. And here's a suggestion. Sometimes I go in the sauna and meditate in there. just kill 2 birds.
Well, I'll have to leave my iPad out, because it's like I usually, I have to edit pictures. Like I'm the one I'm the creative officer. I edit pictures of Jones Road. And when do I have quiet time? So maybe I'll try to split it.
Okay, there you go. That's a deal.
Yeah.
I love talking to you. Thank you for taking the time, because I know you are so busy, and I hope you'll come back. We love you so much, and always admire. I really do. I mean, I think you reached out. It was during COVID or something, and we talked.
Yeah.
We talked.
Right. I know we have all these relationships, and we haven't seen each other in person. So maybe one of these days I'll be in LA, you'll be in New York, in the Hamptons, and
yes.
Yeah,
I'm gonna make it happen, because you are a magical person in my mind, in my world, and I'd love for Melissa to meet you in person someday too. Thank you so much, Bobbi. We love you.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Welcome back to Out Comes the Sun with Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi. I'm Melissa, and I want to talk to you on energy tips about the concept of energy and how it works. Oftentimes when I'm approached by people, they'll say, oh, I'm the year of this, or I'm a Scorpio, or whatever they'll say. And how does that work with my energy? Well, the most important thing that we talk about in health and in feng shui also is how we are multidimensional. So we know that there's a physical aspect to who we are, a mental, emotional, spiritual. We know that because we are multidimensional. The same thing applies to energy. So the ancient Chinese perceived human beings as a microcosm of their greater environment. And when we look at that, if we take this big macro view of the world, and then we shrink it down to each person and take a micro view of them in relation to that, we realize that multidimensional approach to energy around us has to relate to the one person. So when we work with your energy, I look at your year, your month, your day, and your hour. I also look at whether or not your energy is yin or yang. I also look at the 5 different elements and how they apply to you. So the 5 elements we know are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. Each one of them have an archetype, they have a desire, they have a food taste that works better with them, colors that resonate more with them. Now, ideally, you're in a balanced state where you have all of this. But let me give you an idea of the different archetypes that work with each of these energies. So for fire energy is known as kind of like the wizard. It's kind of the person who's always on the move, making the next step. Earth energy is known as the peacemaker. Metal is the alchemist. The water is the philosopher, and wood is the pioneer. Now, with the desires of each of these energies is different also. With fire, it's fulfillment. With earth, it's connectedness, which makes sense with that peacemaker archetype. With metal, it's order. Again, makes sense. With water and the philosopher, it's truth. And with the pioneer for the wood, it's purpose. So when working with your energy, it's not one and done. It's not one size fits all. It is, you are multidimensional. We take every single amazing, fascinating thing about you into consideration to determine how to make your life flow. And really, that is the approach that we should take. I know simple is better in a lot of ways, but we should take this multidimensional approach to who we are, allow ourselves to be fascinated with how amazing we are, and then we can harness our lives, because when you own your energy, you own your life. Don't go anywhere. Please stay. Out Comes the Sun. Coming up next, Mariel Hemingway.
Thank you, Melissa, for your always amazing information. And yes, I am here with a balance tip. I'm Mariel Hemingway. You're listening to Out Comes the Sun Radio. And I want to talk about grounding. I know I've spoken about grounding before, but it's just such an important thing because we're in summer, we have to take advantage of the fact that grounding, this is the time to do it. Because if you live in Chicago, grounding outside and walking barefoot is just not an option in the middle of February or January. So, or even Idaho, where I spend a great deal of time. But when you have this opportunity, this wonderful opportunity, and the sun is shining, and you may be near a beach, or you might be near a path, or you might be near a lake. Grounding is powerful for the body. So let me explain that there's frequency in the earth, and your body, your bare feet absorb that frequency. The electrons come into the body, but it also eliminates inflammation and the buildup of electrons that happens in the body, and it releases that so that you have less inflammation in the brain and in the body. So here's some of the things that you will benefit by walking barefoot. And I know it sounds kind of gross to some people, like, oh my gosh, dogs pee on here. We are animals. We are designed to touch the ground. So get over feeling gross about it and wash your feet when you're done. But it's, I said on a podcast recently that it's one of the greatest ways to set the circadian clock if you're traveling, to lie on the grass when you get to your destination, just to bring you back to the time zone that you're in. It lowers inflammation. It improves your sleep so much. You have no idea. It's just so great for your sleep. It reduces your pain. Because it's getting rid of inflammation, it's going to help with your pain, right? I'm not saying this as like, oh, this is a panacea for everything, but it is something that's going to reduce anxiety, reduce your pain. It alleviates some of your fatigue. And I have a story about that, because I have been grounding, with grounding, earthing in mind for quite a few years, but really since I met Bobbi Williams, and he really opened my eyes to the power of it. Now, I hike a lot, and I am on trails a lot, and oftentimes I can't be barefoot because it's rocky and it hurts, and what have you. But whenever I'm tired, and I think I was on a call with Melissa once when I was hiking, and I said the most amazing thing just happened. I came out and I was a little bit depressed. And I was walking and I had my shoes on. I was on a trail, but I took my shoes off, and for 20 minutes, it was delicate. It wasn't the easiest walk, but I kept walking, and I got myself through it. And in 20 minutes, I had so much energy. And I was listless when I first started. And throughout the walk for 30 minutes prior to taking my shoes off, I was tired, and I was still kind of a little bit down. I mean, it was beautiful outside, but when I took my shoes off, my energy shifted so much. It was incredible. And my energy level just went through the roof. So I can't express this to you enough. And I probably will use it as a tip many times during the summer, just because I think it's really important that people try it. And it doesn't mean you have to go out on a trail. You can go in your backyard and, and just take your shoes off and sit on a chair and have your shoes be on the ground. It's this powerful medicine. So that's my tip for the day. And I just think it's important. So give it a try, please.
You and I have spoken many times when you've been on speaking engagement, and I'll say, hey, what's going on? I'm in the middle of a break and I'm sitting out here on the grass lying down. And so they said, and sometimes you'll have Daisy, your little dog, with you. And I know that Daisy, if dogs look at us as part of their pack and we're their leaders, she must think you're one of the dogs, because you're right there on the grass laying out with her, not sitting on the park bench barking orders to her. And then secondly, I always giggle when you tell me this, because I can imagine people walking in these little remote places sometimes that you are, and they're like, Martha, that's not Mariel Hemingway. She wouldn't be laying out on the grass like that. That can't be Mariel Hemingway. What's she doing in Kansas anyway? So I always imagine you. I always get a big giggle out of it, thinking you're lying out in the grass somewhere, and people are open their eyes, thinking they've seen an optical illusion.
I like that. It's awesome. Well,
what a great show. Bobbi Brown you were right, Mariel. She was, you told me beforehand when she'd agreed to come on, we're going to be in for a treat. You're right. She's good.
Love about her is she's regular. She's normal. She's like everybody. Like, she's a real person who's done a business and worked really hard and had this huge business. And, she alludes to it that, that big beauty industry is a tough industry, and she just wanted to do it for herself. And now she has Jones Road Beauty. And now, like, you can tell it's a heart project. And, so I'll tell her that she can use me as a coach, and she can call me when she's having trouble meditating. And I'll just guide her right on back in. Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. You're listening to Out Comes the Sun Radio. Melissa and I couldn't be more joyful at having you here every day. And again, I'm going to just throw it out there. MarielHemingwayFoundation.org is the foundation that Melissa and I created to be a resource navigator for people with mental health issues. And we want to be able to give them resources and solutions. So the only way we do that is if you donate and help us to get to that. I guess it's basically a site where we create something that can find those resources in whatever part of the country you're in. So anyway, we love you all, and we'll see you again soon.
Out Comes the Sun has been a production of Evolve Entertainment. Hosts Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi. Executive producer Jeremiah Higgins. And sound engineer and producer Richard Dr. D. Dugan. Thank you for listening.